Well, today we're going to talk about relationships, all things girl, guy, and relationships. And, whether I have extensive experience with these type of people.
Oh my gosh.
I do.
Tracy. Oh my God.
Oh
okay,
my.
Pause.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. I'm saying, oh, no, let me just shut up. I can't shut up. Okay, we're here now, right?
Yes.
Oh God. Like, I can't even remember now. It was like this question and the last two questions. Great. All good questions.
This has been something on my mind for quite a while, but I think I haven't been in the right space to do it until now.
Welcome to MultiformPTSD. Here's your host, Tracy Lowry.
All right. I've got, again, Mr. Arthur Oniah. We're back again. We are going to chat here on Multiform PTSD. Thank you so much for being here, Arthur.
Woo! Thanks for having me. I'm going to put my hat on because I get a little cold. It's wintertime.
That is fine. That is totally fine.
Right.
All right. Well, today we're going to talk about relationships, all things girl, guy, and relationships. And, whether you are in a relationship, whether you're happy in your relationship, whether you think maybe you are trying to get out of a relationship or thinking about maybe being ready to get in, we're going to talk about it all. I just feel this great conversation coming. So let's do this.
Yay! Let's go.
Let me just ask you this. Why do you feel this is an important subject to talk about today?
Relationships?
Yeah.
Because it is, my speaking platform is definitely mental health matters. And, like I told you before, like with you and your podcast and everything else as a speaker, author, we are at the forefront of something really, really major, I believe, I don't see that many people talking about it. And so, the fact that you have this platform here to do that, I think it's crucial. It's hella crucial. We need to talk about it a lot more. And I keep, anytime I'm into a lot of anti-bullying, earth conservation, these are really broad topics. And they're kind of overarching, right? But, it's there for a reason. And so I think it all starts in your head, right? You get your mental health, your mental awareness and stuff. And then after that, you got your family, you have maybe you're a young girl or a young guy, and you maybe, high school sweethearts if you're lucky. And, you start a relationship, and then you get engaged, you get married, you start a family, now you're husband and wife. And then, and everything in between. My church family, they were telling me the original church is your family. So that's where it starts. I think a lot of the issues, because I tend to I try to reverse engineer whatever's going on, whether it's positive or negative, and try to get down to the root of it and say, well, what is it exactly? How can we solve all these magnificent problems? And it all starts at home. It starts at home. So when you talk about home, it's not just the house that you live in, right? It's not just the kids that live under there. It's all your food for free.
Right.
It's daddy, right? It's daddy. It's mommy. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And before you even go beyond that, it's grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, and cousin. It's mommy and daddy. And before you were mommy and daddy, hopefully, you were, like I mentioned, dating and all that other stuff. And the fact that you and I, we are into the PTSD community and mental health awareness and wanting to bring awareness and help others and welcome any type of contributors, collaboration. I'm all for that, so that's kind of it. And I'm a single guy, you know what I'm saying? I'm not perfect. And I'll be 30 in the new year, God willing, and God bless it. And, I talk to friends, I talk to people, all the time. And I'm just trying to figure out this whole guy girl thing. We've all been out there. We've all dated. We're all trying to figure that out. I think a lot of times we like to cover that up, It's like, okay, you know what I mean? And try to make something else more priority to try and explain why we're not spending this time, building on this relationship inside. And then also with my partner, who's my wife or whoever, that's going to be the queen of the castle. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, it's kind of a trickle down thing. And that's why I think it's so important that, we talk about it. It's kind of fun, but it's also entertaining and educational. And so, yeah, man, I'm all here for it.
I think you kind of brushed on why it's so important. We can say that our relationships, don't rule us, and I don't think they should, but they play such a huge part on our mental health. And I mean, if you love your job and you love your career, maybe you're in school, you love your classmates, you love what you do, you love your education, but if your relationship's in the crapper, or you're in the middle of a breakup, or if you're in the middle of some kind of turmoil, that can really affect the whole rest of your life. I think relationships can either add to or take away from. And that's both relationships as far as romantic goes, and even just the close relationships we have with our close inner circle.
Yeah, for sure. Is that one thing I talk when I'm talking to my homegirls, the fellas too, I guess the bros, but we don't, really talk too much about it. I think it's a whole other thing. But I mean, the men who I call my brothers, we tend to be secure in our masculinity. It's not like what you see in media and stuff. It's like, oh, you're a punk, and it's like corny. You know what I'm saying? Like, real men can talk about things that are sensitive, that hurt them. I tell my brother I love you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was thinking, I forget, you said something. You said something that made me think about that. But yeah, my homegirls. Yeah, because I ask my homegirls a lot of questions because these are women, and experienced professional women. And my thing is, I try to, pick their brain. I always say, pick my brain. You know what I'm saying? Because I figure this whole thing out too.
Let me ask what your thoughts are on, because you talked about your homegirl and talking about, kind of bouncing ideas off of it. How do you feel about, this is like the age-long argument, can guys and girls be just friends with no romantic anything in the middle of it? Can it be straightly platonic between a guy and a girl friend?
I want to say yes. Yeah. I also want to preface this, because we're touching on it. This is our first relationship talk. I hope will be one of many more, many, many, many more. I think you and I have both made it clear that it is bigger than the words we're using, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm a deep individual, probably more than I like to be, and it's a really, really good question. It's that deep and it's that important. Okay, so I just want to preface that, and also. With the language, it's important because certain words are trigger words for a lot of people, right? I'll tell you what I've learned and what I have kind of tend to embrace, from different thought leaders and stuff. And that was that we got to talk about love, LOVE, a little small 4-letter word, and really like how that is. And going into this whole thing about love. Now, my homegirls, they think differently, right? And they're coming from their perspective as women, respectfully. But we talk about what is love? Well, love is this energy. I can love everybody, and I can love anybody, and don't confine me to my sex or my gender, or you know what I mean? Like why must I be monogamous? And what is monogamy? And all these different things. And it's as a human being, you have to respect it. You really do. If you care to be a loving person. But it is. I said that to say that it's also very challenging. I mean, the short end of the answer is yes. I believe it's possible. Is it easy? No. Simple, yeah. But I also heard someone say that love energy is the root is sex, right? Like the highest form of love energy is sex, right? Which then yields life, right? In the animal kingdom,
right?
Right. When I first read that, I was like, wow, that's hella dope. You know what I'm saying? And but it stirred up a lot in me. I was like, what are we doing? I'm supposed to, you know what I mean? Just going out procreating with everybody,
Right. Yeah.
I find it tough, because, guys, we can get pretty jealous. You tell me, you think women get jealous about stuff like that? But no one wants somebody who's super always controlling and jealous,
right.
If because my wife or my girlfriend's this pretty woman and she's out, just in herself, or trying to be herself. And men keep coming on to her, you know what I'm saying? It's or women or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? People are attracted to beauty. As a man, I had to put myself in that position and be okay, try to understand it or be more empathetic to it and be okay, I wanted a pretty girlfriend, or a pretty wife or whatever. I can't expect not to be getting looks, or I can't her to get looks to have somebody try to hit on her. So
for someone else to appreciate it.
Okay, that's a better way to put it. Yes, You know, the girlfriends that I've been so fortunate enough to have, the few at this point, they're beautiful women. You know, if my girlfriend would tend to get mad at me, right? For example, if I have female friends. So like if I have women who are my platonic friends, my girlfriend would be jealous of that and she'll let me have it. So that can kind of stir up things, like I said, on both sides. But I mean, in general, I think it is possible, but it kind of boils down to the individuals themselves and then also the relationship they have with each other.
For me, I don't think it's a black and white answer either. You talked about being, controlling and controlling me. That's not going to go very far because I've had too much of that in my life. And now as soon as I see it, I'm like, oh, heck to the no. But you also have to be respectful that if your significant other is feeling like there's boundaries being crossed, that you need to respect that for them as well. So it can be kind of a touchy thing, especially for those of us who have issues of being controlled in the past and being cheated on in the past. I'm kind of a tomboy in a lot of ways. I like sports. I like playing them. I like watching them. So I have guys that I can be close with, but I would not have a romantic relationship with. I also have learned that there are boundaries where with one of them have a girlfriend that doesn't like me being one of the guys. I will either go out of the way to reach out to her and try to either make her a part of it, make her comfortable, or I will just respectfully bow out. So I think a lot of it's communication and making sure that those boundaries are kind of set. I think it's when you start doing the secretive, hiding, and communication isn't there about everything. That's when things get messy. Have you been in a relationship where you feel it was toxic in any way?
Yes.
I hear you. Have you used those experiences when talking to any of your friends, guy or girl? How would you suggest talking to someone who is maybe in a toxic situation? Because that's a very touchy subject. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Because that's a complex situation, right?
Right.
Right. It's a toxic relationship, so this is a pretty complex situation. The best solution I've come up with at this point is try to minimalize your setting in which you guys are going to have this conversation, right? And so I am of the belief that, I'm not going to say I'm this self-proclaimed minimalist. It's like when you say you're vegan, right? Like you say you're vegan, like, whoa, like, you know what I mean? Like let's dive a little deep. Like, what do you mean by vegan? Like, I eat meat,
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't really know. Like, I try to be more clean-based in my diet. So I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it can get a lot more hardcore, You know what I mean? And so I think the same thing applies to the minimalistic approach. But like less is more. So like, for example, if I want to go on a date or something like that, definitely would love the beautiful, fine dining, candlelit, romantic type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. And there's a time and place for all that. It's like you are what you attract kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Arthur knows who he is and how he is. And so I try to, and it's two things. I'm not just like one type of dude, right? I can be a complex person, like I have a lot of various interests. So, if somebody I care about, somebody I like, I try to do something very, very simple, and this is just something that I do, but it's very simple, very, 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 very simple, and there's less distraction around me.
Mm-hmm.
When you add all that stuff into it, like it starts to take away from getting at the heart of the individual. There's like we're onions, you got to peel back these onions. Okay, this is who he is. So, the more distractions around us, and I think what that does is it starts to trigger certain things. There's a lot of different stuff, and so, this not being an absolute, it's not just it's very much gray,
Mm-hmm.
and and so we have to respect that. We have to be like, the less opportunity I engage into a situation that would, chance me thinking about a situation or being triggered by some past toxic relationship or whatever that may be, less exposed I am to that, the more likely I am to be like, okay, I can kind of just peel out these onions of myself until we kind of get to where we're at. Because you see it, you've seen it. I've been in a toxic relationship. You say you've been in a toxic relationship. Like, a lot of people deal with this stuff, and it's hard. And so the guy says, I don't know, and I'm just throwing out some random example, but if I say I want to do something very simple, like we're talking like black and white, dumb simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like coffee, right? And like not even in like some barista, but like, I don't know, coffee out in the nature, like bare bones hardcore simple,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's gonna be like, okay, right? And then someone be like, oh, well, you're cheap, you're poor, you're this, you're that, and I'm like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? I know
Right.
some guys maybe have a lot of money, or even I guess it goes the same way on the female side. But some men, you talk about, you use the term like gold diggers. You heard that term, right?
Right.
They will purposefully maybe try to offer something that's like, just to see if you have a heart, you care,
Right.
because you find out real fast who's a gold digger, who's not. Find out real fast, what kind of triggers, what kind of toxicity you had in your past or are currently dealing with or choosing not to deal with. You find out real fast.
So you kind of talked about gold diggers. And I like how you said it's getting to know the heart of someone, because there's a difference between being triggered by something that is totally inaccurate and kind of those red flags. Like, this is an actual red flag. And sometimes for those of us who have PTSD or even just any kind of traumatic relationship history or past, how do you know the difference between this is an actual red flag or this is your brain playing tricks on you, telling you there's a red flag where there isn't any? Like, so how do you tell the difference?
Is first of all, I think it's really hard. Let's go and put that out there again. It is definitely very difficult. Right, so to try and to figure that out, let's talk like race, for example, right? We talk about racial profiling. That's pretty, I think, poignant, right? Especially
right now.
Exactly, so I don't know. Again, it's going to trigger certain things. Well, I've heard some individuals on the security side, talk about, well, racial profiling in and of itself, for example, I'm just using this as an example, can be used as a safety mechanism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it, Now, you should leave it there. I don't care if you're white, black, whatever you are, man, woman, you know what I'm saying? Any color, any gender, sex, whatever. If something creates this, again, red flag for me, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to be like, oh, right, my little light bulb went off. So now I'm going to calm down, assess, figure out what's going on, right? If in that moment, if I have time to, like, I'm going to, you want to respond, you don't want to react. There's a great movie called Crash. I told a young kid about this one time. And he's young. He's a younger generation, but he's a pretty wise kid, He's less likely to have watched some of the movies I've seen, right?
Right.
So there's a movie called Crash, which I think is a phenomenal film. Have you seen it?
I feel like I've seen it. Does it have Sandra Bullock in it?
Yes, and she's the goat. I love Sandra Bullock. Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's one of my favorite films, and I think it's so hardcore. I love it so much because, like, I'm paraphrasing here. I'm definitely paraphrasing. In the movie, it's something like, she was very mad. Is essentially what it came down to, and she was robbed. Her and her white husband were robbed, I think, at gunpoint or something like that, by a black man. And so, but essentially, what it was is like she was like, no, I am trying to be, this like open person, and I'm trying to be, understanding, culturally sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened? They put a gun in my face, and I was robbed. Right? It's like, wow, way to go. You know what I'm saying? And that's a real issue. You understand? That's a real issue. If I'm looking at somebody, let's say, who's Caucasian or who's non-black, and they are put in that situation, my heart goes out to them.
Yeah.
Now, if I am also a African American, or a black person, or a person of color, right? And I am non-white. Let's look at it that way, right? If I am literally out and about and I'm doing my own thing, I'm completely legal, I'm doing everything fine, what you see in that movie, right? You will see that in that movie that happens as well. I am now racially profiled. It gets really ugly and nasty. Like, how all that works, right?
Right.
These things still happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, these things still happen. I think it's sad that we have to go through all this. It's tragedy. But it's just like, I think when that situation happens and red flag occurs, I respect the red flag. Does that make sense? I respect it. What I mean by when I say I respect, that means I respect negative connection I have to that. I respect that for what it is. Okay? Assess the situation, do whatever you got to do. put yourself in a safe space, okay? And then, just, as you go, okay, you're safe, cool, then, and do your own reflective time. I'm saying, okay, did you really say that? Did this really happen? Did that? And you're going to try to justify. You're going to try to justify all these things, and, I think that's human nature. We can't let it go willy-nilly, you know what I'm saying? But we have to be able to, you know what I'm saying? Because it is what it is. And Sandra Bullock in that situation, and, the other characters within the movie who all have these, like, crashing moments, at the end of the day, like, you can make it to the other side, you know what I'm saying? It's like, wow, it's like some people will talk about racial profile. I'm sorry I'm going off on a tangent here. I'm just, like, really passionate about this stuff. But, some people talk about, police officers. I would just as equally, right, confront or have a sit down with a Caucasian male or woman, right, who is being, inappropriate towards people of color when they're, negatively portraying, whether white individuals or anybody who's non-black, right? I'm still going to be that guy. That makes sense?
Right.
Because, and that's just extremely ignorant. You talk about, like, the whole Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, all this. We're going down a rabbit hole here, and that's a whole other conversation, to be honest. But to keep it kind of simple, it's like, police officers, are you kidding me? And it's not just, like, people of color. I mean, there's I guess white, Caucasian people, whatever, who say some mean, nasty things about police officers. And it's like, okay, talk all that trash all you want to, and when you get stuck out, who's going to help you? Make sense?
Yeah.
So it's just really stupid to me. But again, and it's stupid in and of itself, but I can't just, like, throw it out. You know what I'm saying? You don't throw it out. Like, oh,
Right.
well, you work through it, whatever's happening within yourself, right? And intelligently, as well as what's happening within your own, and try to, one step further, just because that what you're describing are feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Feelings are valid. But then there's also a factual, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing. And so we have to look at both of those things.
I agree that sometimes in the heat of a moment, like those experiences that you were talking about, you can get emotional and react instead of respond. But I think it's important that, like you said, we kind of take a step back and what are the facts? And this is one of the things I like to talk about with anyone who's dealt with any kind of trauma in any aspect. Take a step back. What do you know? Because me, even in my own head, I can have this story, huge, long background of a story made up in my head from a short sentence conversation I heard from someone. Oh, they said that because they feel this about this and they hate me. And, I can wind myself up. And sometimes I have to just take a step back and be like, okay, what do I know? What did they actually say? What do I know to be fact? Instead of getting all of the emotion and everything wrapped up in it. I don't know if guys do the same thing. I think girls do this a lot. And what am I adding to it from my past trauma maybe, or past experiences, just to kind of take that step back and look what's real, what's fact, what do I know? No more hat?
More hats, get kind of
as black and white as I feel maybe we want to make things, it isn't always black and white. And I like that we are talking about this because it is across the board on so many levels. Everyone's coming to every situation with a different past. And we can respect where people are coming from. We aren't always going to agree with their conclusion or their decision, but we can respect maybe why they got there. So I like that we have this conversation here. That's what this is all about, is getting it out there, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, if any, narcissists and narcissism?
It's bad.
I agree. What would you say a narcissist is, and what are some of those warning signs that you're dealing with one in any relationship?
Yeah, so using trusty Google.
Mm-hmm.
What are the traits of a narcissist? What is an example of a narcissist? What is a narcissistic relationship?
Ooh.
That looks like a good one. Let's click that one.
Let's do that. I love it.
Narcissism, we already agreed. Narcissism is bad.
Absolutely.
True narcissist is someone with narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD. Okay. It's a mental health condition characterized by an inflated sense of importance, period. A deep need for excessive attention and admiration, lack of empathy for others. All right. So, I mean, it's just a gang of different stuff out there. I just picked one random thing, right? So, I think you're right. Cause I've met somebody who I felt like was narcissistic, and I didn't, and respectfully, she and I parted ways some time ago, but I was really on the fence. I am. There's things called efficacies, like self-efficacy, where you have self-esteem, right? You have the what they call the ego, and there's two sides to the ego, right? And you want to try to manage your ego.
Right.
When do we look at that and look on the exaggerated end, which will be narcissism or NPD? And then when do we say, no, my ego is healthy and I should have confidence or a healthy self-efficacy about myself, good, positive self-esteem about myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where do we find that happy place? In there, in the middle? So obviously, clearly, it sounds like narcissism, like super high-end mental health, you got an issue, right?
Right.
Versus just a confident person.
Right.
I think what was strange was that, with this I'm talking to, it was like, it's like, because I do my own self-reflection work too. I think going into a relationship or whatever, you're kind of like, well, you kind of do your little checks and balances, right? She has a lot of great stuff going for her, and it's just very much kind of like zen about everything, and that's cool. You know what I'm saying? That's what her is good. I see some different sides of her that I'm just like, it's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect, but it's kind of like, okay, so that led me to believe, okay, well, she's a normal person, and it goes back to your red flags. You know what I mean? Like, some people can live with people who are very confident, right?
Mm-hmm.
Live with individuals who are of that nature, for example. Mm-hmm. Now, again, I believe there is a separation. Okay, let's separate it into two things, okay? Narcissism, let's put way over here on the left. And then we have everything on this side, which is just ego, right? Ego can be negative, positive. Ego can be, I think ego can be so strong and powerful that it can actually encroach upon narcissism. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not narcissism, but it's like super ego. The narcissism is, again, way over there. It is not within this space. And I don't know, I haven't met somebody that's a hardcore narcissist. This lady, I didn't say she was a narcissist. I just said it was like probably some things that were kind of and I asked her, like, was that, somebody ever call you narcissistic, or have you ever heard anything like that at all? It was god awful for me to even ask that, because like, this woman is so incredible. She's imperfect like anybody else, right? It was something where I had to check myself. Right? I'm looking at my own ego. Like, I'm like, I don't believe, I don't think I am a narcissist. I'm very confident. I am. I typically have been. I have a pretty big ego, but it's definitely not what I would call narcissistic, or let's say a narcissist. Have what NPD, which seems like the actual mental issue. That's way over in left field, and then you have just this ego thing. So I don't know if I've ever met somebody who's truly just like a narcissist. That sounds super hella scary to me, but I've experienced, pretty like uberly confident men and women. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, whoa. But I don't, I think it's important you bring it up, because like, it's the language, right? It's the language. It's the words we use. All these things that trigger us. It's like, to where it's going to make you react. It's easier to just say, the N-word, right? Narcissist. It's just awful. And communication, like you say, we just got to have better communication. And again, that woman is, the bottom line is, she wasn't meant for me. Mm-hmm. And so that was it. And so I just had to like chalk that up. I've had some girlfriends tell me that, this is a great guy. He's got all these great things about him. He's got his stuff together type thing. Basically money and career and all this other crap. And so he looks good, he's cute, whatever. But they're scared. They're scared of this inflated ego that he had. And that's a real thing. Just kind of like how we talked about before about a man. I have a beautiful wife, like, holy crap. I'm like, like, I'm going to be scared. I'm going to be insecure. I'm going to feel insecure. I'm like, I wonder if she's mine. No one can see her, Like, It's not easy, man. It's not easy.
For sure. One of the things that stood out to me in that thing you read, I think what really takes it from a narcissist, or maybe just have maybe an inflated ego, is having no empathy for others. I think you said something about that, and one of the things you read, not having empathy for others. So I think what really is kind of the barrier between overly confident and boisterous about it and being a narcissist is they can't celebrate others' wins. They can't let others have their moment. They can't feel for people who are struggling. It's just literally all about them and what they've done, what they want, what they do, and they can't celebrate someone else having a win as well. They take it as almost a personal affront, and they have to one-up it because they can't feel for the other person. I think that's a huge part of deciphering between the two. Unfortunately, I have extensive experience with these type of people.
Oh my gosh.
I do.
Tracy. Oh my God. Okay, pause.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. I'm saying, oh, no, let me just shut up. I can't shut up. Okay, we're here now, right?
Yes.
Okay. Like, I can't even remember now. It was like this question and the last two questions. Great, all good questions. I think you're talking about toxicity and some other things, and narcissism. You're like, I've had an experience with them. Oh God, you know. I was like, but hey, look, no, like, yeah, listen, you got it, you know. I think I was like, you pointed it out, right? You was like empathy. You see what I'm saying? Empathy. Anybody listening to this, you might be paying attention, watching, whatever. Like, you go back what we start saying from the beginning, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think you find the fine line in there. It was empathy. We're not perfect. We have all sorts of stuff, but where's your heart at? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There is a difference. There's definitely a difference. Kind of hard to see it sometimes. At
least the ones that I have dealt with, they can be very charming, and they don't just all of a sudden turn.
That is a scary part.
Yeah, is you think that they're one way, and then they just kind of like slowly move into the other, so slow, where when you're in the middle of it, you don't always see it until, at least for me, I was rock bottom going, how did I get here? Like, how did I not see this? And I really started like self-hating on myself. Like, how did I not see this? How did I not? I mean, I'm relatively smart. Like, I feel like I'm pretty objective and observing others and understanding, but I think I almost have too much empathy where I see too much of the good in people, if that makes sense, where I didn't see the signs too early. Because I didn't want to judge anyone, because I didn't want to do that, because I hate it when it's done on me. But it truly is a gradual shift that they do, because obviously if someone is going to treat you that way right away and treat you poorly, you're not going to stay, and you're not going to stay very long, because you're going to be like, out the door to you. But you know, there's narcissists, abusive mentality, toxic people. They're not abusive and toxic all the time, 100% of the time, and not even to 100% of people. So if they were like in the movies, you see like they really kind of exaggerate it to where the bad guy is pretty much always a bad guy, right? Like, they're always a jerk. You see the extreme, but in real life, there's also the good. Like, you have the happy times, you have the good times, you have both. And so it's harder to see. It's really tough to see, recognize them for what they are, because if you're dealing with some of these people that are the extreme ego or the narcissist or very toxic relationships, sometimes, kind of like you said you did, no longer in my life, and really there is nothing else or a part of them in my life either. It's just gone. For my own healing, I think a lot of times we can't heal in the same environment that broke us.
Yeah. You said it.
have you had any friends that you felt were in kind of a toxic relationship or abusive relationship? How do you go about helping them?
Mm. Mm. I don't know. It's hard.
It is hard. You know, you don't want to overstep your boundaries. You don't want to overstep your relationship. You don't want to speak out and say, hey, this person's bad news. But you also want to feel like you're being a good friend and trying to save them from a potentially very bad relationship and outcome. It's a tough balance.
Yeah.
Have you had anyone you felt was in an abusive relationship that you were worried about?
Yeah, I've known a lot of people like that. And God forbid it's still happening right now. I think we all have. I tend to move in that spirit, you know, like I'm more like nobody's perfect. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I look at it. We all have those, how do you say, relationships or toxic past history. That's how I move. So it doesn't matter who I see, what I see. I don't care who you are, how old you are, how young you are. I don't care. We all got it. And so when I start from that space, then my heart does something different. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because I started from that space. It makes sense?
Right.
So because my heart is out on my chest and it's seeking those who are like us all, you know, hurt, broken, whatever, no matter what you come at me with, I mean, like I'm going to discern from the vision of this person has been heartbroken, whatever tragedy or whatever they're, you know, and then if we, you know, we get to know each other, I start to learn more about who you are, who this person is. Let God take over. If he's gonna steer this thing a certain different way or whatever he's gonna do. And obviously, you know, I got my own things. Like if it's something that's causing me to react or I'm triggered or something like that, then do my best to try to kind of like stay in the fight with you. It is not easy. It's very simple, just simple. But it's not easy, man. So, but I think, like I said, the empathy thing, like where are you coming from? And like I said, but that doesn't mean I'm blind. You know?
Right. It comes down to they have to make their own decision, and it's their life. But it's hard to watch, especially knowing, you know, coming from the place of I've been there. I've been in that kind of relationship, and sometimes I get so passionate about it. I'm like, no, like I went through all of this pain, and I feel like I've been through that pain because I needed to help others. And so when it's someone that I care a lot about and they're still not listening, I'm just like, no, like it's really hard for me because I feel like on a totally, I don't know if lighter note is accurate either, but
yeah.
You spoke of this conversation not having a lot of airtime. We're not talking about it. I think a lot of it, I think people are almost scared to talk about certain hot issues now because they don't want to be controversial or get into that.
Yeah.
And I'm a non-confrontational person, but I think there are important issues that rather than ignore them and pretend they don't exist and hope them away, I would rather have a responsible, respectful conversation about it and try to, and maybe this is where the tomboy in me comes out, solve the problem. I would rather, okay, let's solve the problem. Let's figure it out, talk about it, and figure it out instead of ignoring it and hope it goes away. Because in my opinion, you ignore the issues and you ignore the feelings, it really only makes it worse.
Yeah. I agree.
And I think so many people are just trying to stay away from the hot subjects because they don't want to offend anybody. And I never want to offend anyone, but I think there's a way we can talk about things without being offensive.
Like I said, what is it? I think relationships, you know, like they talk about, you know, you don't want religion in schools and what's some other stuff. You don't talk politics. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't heard about anything about talking about, like, I guess, we're talking about like romantic relationships or just relationships. Or, you know, I've always heard people say, like, you don't talk about politics or at work. You don't talk about relationships at work, or you don't talk about, what do you say, religion at work. Yeah, man, I agree. You know, like we should have more conversations about these things that I think matter the most. It's ridiculous, you know?
Right.
It's ridiculous. Everything's just kind of like floating around. It's like, well, now what, you know?
That's a lot of elephants in the room. I mean, there are things that we're dealing with every day, but we can't talk about it. And I feel like if we teach our kids not to talk about it, then they never learn how to have tough conversations about tough things in a respectful way to solve a problem. I feel like we're losing that in difficult things and how to express a different opinion without being offensive. I think those are things we need to learn rather than hold it in. And I don't know about you, but me, if I'm holding it in, and I got someone pushing my button and pushing my button and pushing my button, when I finally open up, it's more emotion than
You're not gonna like, yeah.
It's not going to be a respectful conversation anymore. Yeah, it's just going to be. Well, thank you so much for talking to me.
Yeah,
and we will have you back for part 2 of this conversation.
Tracy, I appreciate it.
Yes, I appreciate you coming, Arthur. Thank you so much.
Hey, I just wanted to say before you go, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing with your friends. Go ahead and make sure you subscribe, like, and follow us on social media. I am Tracy Lowry, and we will be here every Monday, ready to help you in your struggle. All right, I gotta go. See you next episode. Mic drop.